Hey Jan, this is Kevin Shryock coming to you with a homework question you submitted. So you were asking about this idea of factoring and foiling, and how does it relate to the problem 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. So factoring is just the fancy math speak for breaking something down into parentheses, or possibly pulling something out in front of those parentheses. So let's use this as an example. If I was going to factoring is going to break something down into its parentheses. And then foiling is just an acronym for how to multiply those parentheses back together to get to our original equation. So let's take a look. Over here to the left, I've written the steps that I use for factoring a quadratic. And a quadratic just is a fancy word again for any kind of equation that has an x squared as the biggest variable power, and all the others are smaller than that and whole numbers. So nothing funky is going on. There aren't any powers to powers, there aren't any fractions in the powers, there aren't any other kinds of square roots or other things that are clogging up our simple equation. It's just something that follows the form of this 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. So what do we do first? Well, the first step I wrote is to draw two sets of parentheses, and that's what I've already done. So let's go on to step 2. Step 2 is factor the first and last term. Ooh, first and last term, that's going to be a little bit of memory recall. A first term, a term, is anything that's going to be separated by a plus or a minus. So each of these is its own term. And the first term would be this 4x squared. So if I was going to come down here and I was going to break apart the 4x squared, well, I want to look at something that is going to be even. So let's put the x in both sides. And let's maybe say what all can multiply. Well, maybe like a 1x and a 4x, a 2x and a 2x, and lastly a 4x and a 1x. All of these, when multiplied together, is going to get me back to that 4x squared. This is my factoring of the first term. Let's do it again for the last term, and I'm going to use a different color, possibly orange. Yeah, let's do orange. So if I was going to factor down the number 5 is going to factor into 1 and 5, and, well, 5 and 1, because 5 is a prime number, which means it only factors down into itself and the number 1. So, step 3, determine the sign. So what are we going to do? Oh, let me finish up step 2 first. Let me take, oh, nope, sorry, we are good. Let's go on to the determining the sign. So how do I determine the sign? The sign is going to be what goes in the middle of these parentheses. What goes in the middle of each of these parentheses. And for that, we're going to look back at the original equation and kind of take a little bit of a guess. Well, we know that the end term is going to be positive. So we know that these signs have to both be the same, because only two of the same sign multiply out to a positive, either two negatives or two positives. Okay, what about the middle component? Well, the middle component looks like it's going to be positive, and it's looking much bigger than the ones that we have factored out, so I'm going to say that the same sign is going to be positive. So I'm going to put in my guess as it being a plus in both of these. Okay, and again, it's okay, this is just a guess, so if we end up guessing wrong, we're going to be able to double check ourselves. That comes later in the steps, and we're just going to try something else. Erasing is not a problem. So we've now determined the sign. Okay, number 4, try something. So what am I going to try? I'm going to try two of my factors. So maybe I first try my 1x and 4x, and I'll put those up here. So 1x and 4x, and then I will try my 1 and my 5, and I'll write those up here. So 1 and 5. So step 5 is to foil. So foiling is how we get to double check our answer. So foiling, to break down the acronym again, is this idea of first. So the first terms times each other, 1x and 4x gets me 4x squared. Outer is my 1x and 5x, so plus 5x. Inner would be the 1 and the 4x, and last. So last would be the 1 and the 5. Alright, let's simplify this down and see what it got us. So 4x squared plus 9x plus 5. Ooh, this is not looking like what we started with. We started with a 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. So we know we have the signs right. The signs are all checking out. That's good. But this middle term isn't big enough. So that brings us to step 6, which is when all else fails, try again. So let's erase our terms and let's try something different. I'm going to select all this and take it away. And I'll use my eraser up here. Alright, so we're looking for a 12. What's the 12x? How can we maybe, instead of just guessing and checking, what can we use that we've already learned? Well, we know that this organization of our terms, well, the ones we chose, got me only 9, and that's because this 4 and the 5 added together. Maybe I need to look into something that causes a bigger term. Okay, I'm just going to guess. Let's guess down to this next one. 2x and 2x, let's put that in. And then we've got this 5 and the 1. Now I could do the 1 and the 5 from the first one. The truth is it doesn't matter because this 2x and 2x are eventually going to FOIL out and everything's going to get a 2x. We'll see that in a second. But again, I'm just guessing. I'm creating a guess. You're going to learn something later called the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is the math formula that makes it where we never have to guess again and do foiling. But it is a little bit complicated, and so it's best left for its own lesson. So let's try this one out. I've just been foiling, and then I get plus 5. Let's simplify this together. I get 4x squared plus 12x plus 12x plus 5. Hey, that's my original problem. 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. Great. So now what am I going to submit to my teacher? Not the 4x squared plus 12x plus 5. That's the problem they gave me. I need to give her or him my final answer. So my final answer is going to be what I factored it down into. 2x plus 5 and 2x plus 1. Box it so that they know that's your final answer and not just some more work. And you are done. Alright, hope you enjoyed.